Hey up everyone and welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. Today I'll be doing my tips for round 10 of the 2024 NRL season. Now last week I had one of my worst ever tipping rounds that I can think of. I only got 4 out of 8 correct. However, I think it would be hard pressed to find anyone that got better than 4 or 5 correct last week. If anyone last week got 7 out of 8 or even a perfect round last week, then I hope that you put some money on the games because you would have earned an absolute mint. But anyways, let's kick off this week with the first match, which was happening on Thursday night. And the first match to kick us off on the Thursday night is Redcliffe against Manly. This match is being played at Suncorp Stadium. These two sides have only met once before, and it were last year. Manly defeated Redcliffe 58 points to 18, which I think is Redcliffe's biggest ever defeat. Redcliffe are currently in 4th at the moment, Manly 5th. Redcliffe had a narrow victory over North Queensland last week. As for Manly, I don't know what happened there, to be fair. They were in front, playing well, and then they just capitulated. Very disappointing from them, and I felt pretty silly in the end because I tipped them. With Redcliffe, they've still got a few players out for this game. Flegler, Tabby Wifado, Herbie Farnworth and Tessie News also in doubt. As for Manly, I think Ben Trebojevic is the only sort of first team player that's going to be out for this game. This is a really hard match to call because it could go either way, but I don't know, I just really like the way that Redcliffe are going at the moment. Even though they've had some injuries and suspensions and things like that, they're still turning up, they're still playing well. Wayne Bennett's got them organised quite well. So I fancy them at home against Manly, and I'm going to go for them to win by 1 or 12 points. However, this game could go either way, so wouldn't be surprised if Manly would win this game, but I'm going to go for Redcliffe. And the first match on Friday is between Penrith and Canterbury-Bankstown. This one's being played at Penrith Stadium. Penrith in 3rd at the moment and Canterbury in 8th place. Penrith have dominated this fixture in recent times. They've won their last 6 matches against Canterbury. Both of these teams had wins last week. Penrith with a routine win over South. Canterbury with a hard-fought win over West Tigers. Didn't always go their own way, but they managed to get the job done in the end. This is going to be an interesting game. I expect that Canterbury will come out and really give Penrith the match, and also there's a lot of added spice with the fact that there's a few Penrith players in the Canterbury team now, and they'll be looking to get a win over their former clubs. So for this game, I think that Canterbury will give them a match. It will be competitive, but I just can't go against Penrith at the moment. They're playing too well, so I'm going to go for Penrith to win by 1 to 12 points. And the main game on the Friday is between Parramatta and Brisbane. This one's being played at the Western Sydney Stadium. Parramatta in 12th at the moment, Brisbane in 7th. These two sides in the last 10 meetings, Parramatta's won 6, Brisbane's won 4. Overall, you wouldn't believe it, but Brisbane's played Parramatta more than any other team in their history. There's been 65 matches played. Brisbane's won 36, Parramatta's won 28, and there's been 1 draw. Now for both teams, lots of key injuries coming into this game. With Parramatta, Clint Gutherson, the heart and soul of the club at the moment, and for a few years now. He's out for at least 4 to 5 weeks with a knee injury after having surgery, and he needed that surgery, to be fair. And also they've got Moses out, so we all know about that. As for Brisbane, Jesse Arthurs, broken jaw, Jock Madden won't be playing, and Adam Reynolds, massive blow for the Brisbane club, torn bicep. Not a good look. He'll be out for quite some time, and he's such an important player to their team. Now Parramatta's in a bit of a hole at the moment. I mean, I could talk about them for hours and the problems that they have at the club, but to sum it up, they are in a lot of trouble at the moment. But they've had the bye, and they're coming into this game a bit fresher than Brisbane, and it's going to be at home, so there is a bit of optimism that maybe they could do something, especially with some of Brisbane's key players out. However, we've seen how they've played against other teams that have had missing players, and they just haven't aimed up this year. And as we've seen with Brisbane this year, even with some key injuries, they've still aimed up, they've still put in the performances. I mean, last week against Eastern Suburbs, they were right in the game, 18-all, and then the silly sin bin, and then East capitalised on the man advantage and ended up running away with it. So we all know about teams as well, when they get battered one week, they come out the next week and put in a good performance. Parramatta's going to have to be at their best. However, I don't know, I just think that I can see Brisbane winning this game. Of course, I'd like to see Parramatta win, but they've got a lot of issues at the moment, and I think even without Reynolds and without Madden, Brisbane can still get the job done. So I'm going to go for Brisbane to win by 112 points on the Friday. And the first match on Super Saturday is between West Tigers and Newcastle. This one's being played at the home of country music, Tamworth, Scully Park. It sees West Tigers in 15th place at the moment, Newcastle in 11th. In the last 10 meetings, Newcastle have won 6 of those, West Tigers have won 4. However, in the last 4 encounters, Newcastle's won all of those. Now with West Tigers, they could potentially be without Coruscant again. Eden Seas is suspended. As for Newcastle, they've got a couple of players coming back I can see on the injury list. Now West Tigers' time in the home of country music, Tamworth, hasn't been the best. They've played 5 matches there, they've only won 1 of those, lost 3, and they've had the 1 draw. West Tigers have also lost their last 5 matches in the league. You know, they haven't been awful, but they're just not getting the results. As for Newcastle, everyone feared the worst when Caelan Ponga got injured. I remember even League Freak said that they wouldn't even win another game for the rest of the year, and they've upset some teams and they've got some victories without their star player. So I myself personally thought that Newcastle would struggle without Ponga, but they've actually performed quite well. So this is going to be an interesting game. However, I'm going to go for Newcastle to win. I'm going to go for them to win by 112 points. I just think that with Newcastle, they've shown me more in the last couple of weeks compared to West Tigers. There's just something about the West Tigers at the moment that I'm a bit off when it comes to them. So I'm going to go for Newcastle to win by 112 in Tamworth. The second match on Super Saturday is between St George and South Sydney. This one's being played at Cogra Oval. St George in 13th at the moment, and South Sydney bottom of the table in 17th place. In the last 10 meetings between these two sides though, South Sydney have dominated the fixture. They've won 8 of the last 10. Now this is one of the most played matches in Australian Rugby League history, if you count St George as the same club as St George Illawarra like I do. There's been 203 matches played since 1921. There's been 111 wins to St George, 90 wins to South Sydney, and there's been 2 draws. Now with South Sydney last week, under new interim head coach Ben Hornby, they did start okay against Penrith. I think they're out to a 12-0 lead, and then once again the game finished the same way most of the matches have finished this year. They were second best, and that try that Taylor May scored off the tap restart, that gave me flashbacks of 2013 when Benji Marshall scored that try against Parramatta. That were wooden spoon behaviour, that. And as for St George, they had a narrow loss against their arch rivals Cronulla. They were competitive in that game, but they fell short. With South Sydney, they're a club in crisis. They're the worst team in the NRL so far this year, and just the injury toll is just so immense. They've got Hawkins out, Gray's out now, Murray, the heart and soul of the team's out, Campbell Graham, Totola, Ilias, the list goes on. However, I do think that Latrell Mitchell will be back for this game. I think the injury crisis at South Sydney is that great that they've actually asked the NRL for special dispensation to maybe set up a loan agreement with some other clubs to get some players in to fill in for the injured ones. This is a really tough game to call because St George this year have been one of them teams where they've had a few floggings, but they've also put in some very good showings against some teams. So they'll fancy their chances against a weakened South Sydney side, and South Sydney really have to start recording some wins, otherwise they're going to be cut adrift at the bottom of the table. For this match, I will go for St George to win at home, simply because they've been playing slightly better than South this year. They've got a healthier squad. Souths are in all sorts. I don't know where they go from here, but yeah, I'm going to go for St George to win by 1 to 12 points. And the third match on Super Saturday is between Melbourne and Cronulla-Sutherland. This match is being played at Amy Park. It sees Melbourne in second place at the moment and Cronulla in first place on the table. In my personal opinion, this is game of the round. In the last 10 meetings between these two sides, Melbourne have won 7 of those. They've really dominated this fixture in recent times, and the last time that Cronulla won in Melbourne were in round 22 of the 2018 NRL season and defeated Melbourne 17 points to 14. Overall, these two sides have met 45 times in the league. Melbourne's won 29 of those and Cronulla's won 16. Cronulla's record at Amy Park isn't that great. Since it's open, Cronulla's only won there twice. However, they were more successful at the old Olympic Park. They had 4 wins there and 4 losses. For Melbourne, they were dealt a massive blow during the Gold Coast game with Pappenhausen getting injured, and last year without Pappenhausen, Melbourne really struggled. They kind of fell apart in some respects. He's so important to that team. We'll have to wait and see how they go, I should say, without him for a couple of weeks. This is a really good game. I think it's going to be a really high quality game. Two good sides, top of the table clash. I think this is a match which is potentially going to show our Cronulla contenders in 2024 or pretenders. Because we've seen the last 2 years or so, they've made the finals, but they've been making up the numbers when it comes against the more sort of stronger teams. But this is their chance to stamp their authority on the competition and really show all the other teams in the competition that they're one of the contenders this year if they can potentially get the win. However, for this match, because it's in Melbourne and because they're really tough to beat down there, I will go for Melbourne to win by 1 to 12 points. As I said, I think this game's going to be high quality. It's going to be a really close one, but I just see Melbourne winning it, minus Ryan Pappenhausen. And the first match on the Sunday is between Eastern Suburbs and New Zealand. This one's being played at the new Sydney Football Stadium. East in 6th at the moment and New Zealand in 14th place. In the last 10 matches between these two sides, Sydney Roosters have dominated this fixture. They've won 8 of the last 10 matches. The last time that New Zealand managed to defeat Eastern Suburbs in Sydney came in round 4 of the 2018 NRL season when they beat them at the old Sydney Football Stadium. East had a very impressive win over Brisbane last week. As I said earlier in the video, it was 18-all. The sin bin happened and then East just ran over the top of Brisbane and recorded a very good victory in the end. As for New Zealand, I mean, this is the 3rd week in a row that I tipped them, and the 3rd week in a row they let me down. I don't know what's happened with New Zealand. It seems like, I don't know, they've lost their mojo, as the picture says there. But yeah, it's very weird with New Zealand at the moment. They started the year so well, and the last 3 weeks they've just been a shadow of themselves, I think. And the club were dealt another injury blow with Capewell being ruled out with an injury. So they've had a few injuries this year, New Zealand, and that's another key player that they could ill afford to lose, and he's out for a while. So for this match, I've got really no other option but to tip East, because they've been playing well this year, especially last week, made a statement against Brisbane. New Zealand lost 3 matches in a row. It's at home for Sydney Roosters as well, so I'm going to go for Sydney Roosters to win. I don't think it'll be 13 plus, but I'm confident that East can record another victory. I'll probably go for them to win by 1 to 12. And the final match to close out round 10 is between the Gold Coast and North Queensland. This one's being played at Suburbs Super Stadium. Gold Coast in second last, 16th, North Queensland in 10th. In the last 10 meetings between these two sides, North Queensland have won 6 of those, and these two teams met in round 5 up in Townsville, where North Queensland won that game. North Queensland, however, they're in a bit of a rut at the moment. They've lost their last 4 matches in the league. They got very close to tying the game against Redcliffe late on, and Valentine Holmes missed the conversion. With the Gold Coast, they've got some injury concerns still. Tanner Boyd looks like he'll be out. They're still awaiting Jaden Campbell to come back, and Fodawaker might miss this game as well. Now with the Gold Coast, they started the year as wooden spoon favourites along with South Sydney. However, in the last 4 weeks, they've turned it around. Even though they've lost 3 of the last 4 games, they had a narrow loss against Canberra, narrow loss against Manly, just beat New Zealand, and they had another narrow loss against Melbourne. So they are building the summit. They're not winning the games, but they're certainly competitive, and that's something that North Queensland have to be careful of. Now, although I don't consider the Gold Coast and North Queensland to be a rivalry, certainly off the field it is between certain YouTube content creators and people on social media, so no doubt during the week there'll be lots of thinly veiled threats and jokes and posts made about the opposing opponent or the person that goes to that team. And of course, after full time, there's going to be the fallout of all that, so we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. But for this game, surprisingly, I'm going to tip the Gold Coast to win. There's just something about North Queensland at the moment. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something's just not right there. The Gold Coast have been very competitive the last month. I've only tipped them twice before this match, so in the other 2 games that I tipped them in, they obviously lost. But I'm going to go for the Gold Coast to win by 1 or 12 points. I think that they can actually win this game. So that concludes my tipping video for round 10 of the 2024 NRL season. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below and let me know who you're tipping in round 10. And thanks to everyone that tuned in last week to watch me tipping video, making it one of the most watched NRL tipping videos on YouTube. It's much appreciated. Thanks for all the support every week. I'm overwhelmed with the numbers and the comments and people watching the videos. It's really nice to see, so hopefully it continues. But anyways, this has been Rugby League History, and I'll catch us all later in the next one. Good luck. Ta-ra for now.